Hey, I'm continuing on working problems out of the problem set. What we're going to start with first is problem number 6. Okay, so pause it if you have to, get number 6 on your paper, and then we'll begin. Okay, number 6, it's kind of complicated looking. You've got variables on both sides. We know that much just looking at it. Also, you need to look and see if there's any common terms that we can add up. And on the right side, we notice we got 5 p's and we have 3 more p's. So we should be able to add those two together. So we're going to combine these two. And then everything else is just going to drop down, okay, because you're not really doing anything with them in the first step. All right. So let me drop my equal sign down. We're not doing anything on the left side of the equation. All right. That 6 is the actual problem number. It's not part of the problem itself. So if I have 5 of something and I have 3 more of that same thing, I have 8 of it. So I have 8 p's. I have 3 more p's. I have 5 p's and 3 more p's. There's the 8p. All right. And then the minus 8, subtract 8 drops down. Okay. Now I can't add numbers and letters together. I can't add numbers and variables. All right. So now we have to come to a decision, hey, are we going to move the 8 p's to the left and have our variables on the left side? Or are we going to move our variables to the right? Well, I always just go ahead and move the smaller of the two. All right, here I have 1 p on the left and I have 8 p's on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that 1 p and I put the little 1 in front of it so I'd know how many I had. And I'm just going to move it over to the left side. So what's the opposite of 1 p? Well, negative 1 p. All right. Matthew, let the students learn. That's directive number 3. I'm just kidding with you. All right. So anyway, if I subtract 1 p from 1 p, there you go. The negative 1 drops down, and the positive p and the negative p drop out. But don't forget that subtract in front of the 1. That means it's negative. All right, if I have 8 p's and I take away one of them, I end up with 7. And over here, the subtract 8 drops down. All right, so there you go. Now, the variables on the right side, all we have to do now is move all the numbers to the left, so the variable's by itself. All right, so how do I move a subtract 8? What's the opposite of subtracting 8? Well, I add it to both sides. Notice that I add variables to variables and numbers to numbers. A negative 8 and a positive 8 adds up to 0. 0 and 7p just leaves 7p. Over here on this side, I have a negative 1 and a positive 8. Okay, it's silly, but it always works. 1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a number war. Who's got more, the positives or the negatives? Well, there's a positive 8 and there's only one negative. So the positives have more, so the answer is positive. Now just figure out how many more is 8 than 1. Well, again, we end up with the number 7. All right. So the last number we're going to move over away from the variable is the 7 that's multiplying it. Remember, when you have a number just up against a variable, it implies multiplication. So we're going to use the opposite of multiplication to move that 7 away from the p and get it over on the left side of the equation. So what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So I put a division bar. I divide by the number 7 that I'm trying to move, and it just so happens it's going to be dividing another 7 on the other side. So 7 goes into 7 one time. 1 times p is p. 7 goes into 7 one time, and then the 1 just drops down. And so 1 equals p, or if you're one of those people that has to put the variable on the left side, you could write p equals 1. All right. And so there's problem 6. If you need to go back and rewind the video, go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the second one because you can pause this at any time. So I'm going to get rid of problem 6, and I'm going to put problem 8 up here. Problem 8 is going to be a little bit shorter because you're not going to have variables on both sides. All right. So the first thing I'll look at is, can I simplify the left or the right or both sides of the equation? Well, 12 is about as simple as you can get. It's just one number. But on the right side, we have the 4. Got to switch to the right layer. On the right side, we've got the 4 that's multiplying the parentheses. And so the 4 is going to multiply everything inside the parentheses one at a time. And that's called the distributive property. Okay? You've had that before. So now we have the distributive property. We go ahead and multiply, and then we total it up. The 12 drops down. Negative 4 times negative 6. Negative times negative is positive. 4 times 6 is 24. Don't forget the x. Negative 4 times a negative 3 would be positive 12. And there we are at our second step. Now, if I'm going too fast, remember you can always pause, rewind, and listen again. Now, we can't simplify anything. The 12's by itself, and 24x's can't add up with 12 numbers. Variables can only add up to other variables that are just like them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move the numbers over. All right? It's easier to move numbers that are using addition or subtraction to be attached to the variable. So I'm going to take this plus 12 and do the opposite in order to move it. I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. Okay? 12 minus 12 is 0. This 12 and subtract 12 is 0, but I'm going to go ahead and add that 0 to 24x, and that way I can just drop the 24x down. Because when you add 0 to anything, you just end up with the thing you're adding the 0 to. All right. Now, the last step will be to get rid of the 24 that's multiplying the variable. Again, what's the opposite of multiply? Divide. Divide both sides by 24, and I love when I get to divide into 0, because any number divides into 0 times. And of course, any number divides into itself one time. 1 times x is x. And so 0 equals x, or you could put x equals 0, and we have finished number 10. Okay, again, as you work these problems, if you find that you need to go back or pause, then go ahead and do so. You know, that's fine. Go ahead and pause, rewind, do what you need to do so you can go back and get the problem down. And remember, turn everything in through Classroom. Even if it takes 3 or 4 pictures, take the pictures, attach them to your Classroom all at once, and then send that thing. And that's how I grade them.